plenty to say.
Talk into the microphone.
We have plenty to say. The TT is a little bit more circumspect. But ka tangi hoki aho, I shall stand and say what I need to say and no more. He whakataua ki mai rāno e humaingia tātou tipuna ki a mātou, hei tohu. He tohu mō tātou, nā reira tēnā koutou, kia ora mai tātou katoa.
Koro te toi hoa.
You know, I'm not used to being in front of a microphone, but they say I've got a loud mouth. And as far as, you know, this morning we heard a lot of kōrero this morning and we felt it. I pā mai te wai rua kei roti I ngā kupu I takoto mai anō rā. So kei te tangi ki ngā he, e pāhuri atu kia ne. We heard a lot about te whare tirahanga Māori. Well, I am one of those products. I'm an original product of that whare tirahanga Māori when it was first created. So David Norman Perry, the only European to be invited to fight alongside the Māori battalion, was my koro. He, along with another fellow called Hedawini Jones, brought a kaupapa into a prison called Mangaloa. At the time it was called Mangaloa, but it became known as Hawke's Bay Regional Prison. And it was down in a whare called Unit 5. They walked into a prison and I'd already clocked up 32 years in prison. And for me, it just blew me away. Tears flowed down my cheeks. You know, my friend and I are here today as products of that kōrero. My mate came along probably 5 or 6 years later when we established the whare tirahanga Māori, and we went on and did the whare ahuru mōwai and Mimataka, tanu atu ki Waitangi, where there's the ao marama. Over those many years, when I got out in 2000, I worked 9 years in prisons, right across the country, in every prison. There were ex-inmates, ex-gangsters, you know, we were all part of that change. And that was a profound change in my life. And I know for many other men that had gone through that one. So I just thought I'd, you know, bring that whare up again and how can I say it? How magnificent it's been. Because I got out in 2000 and I've never been back to prison again. It was on those principles of our tupuna that were laid in front of me. I went back to school at 47 to learn the reo. And my first year was the last year of school C before NCCA came in. Then I did sixth form and I said to my koro Norm, our koro, I think they just given these certificates away. He goes, why's that, boy? I said, well, it's not falling out of my mouth. He goes, well, on that piece of paper, where does it say, Ngata Ngata Wihi Horua is now fluent in te reo? It told me that, you know, you had the ability to learn it. That was 30-something years ago now. So I've been privileged to be involved in, well, I don't have to laugh a second later, put it that way. When the old fellows used to speak and we'd always laugh a minute later, only because we tried to pretend we understood what they were saying. Today my mate and I, we travel the country now. We're part of an organisation that, as survivors of state care abuse, which I never knew I was a part of until a couple of mokos of mine joined the rugby league team and said, Koro, can you take us on to Parawai Marae, where I met Carl. We've been together since there with his family, his son, his wife and daughter, and we've formed a strong bond. We're recognisable to a lot of people throughout the country, even as Dennis spoke here today. You know, we've walked alongside him in our days when he was a gangster. We were trying to be gangsters. But it never really worked out for us, you know. But we are here. Here we are today. So no matter where we've been in our life, we like to call it like a tā moko. Tā meaning belonging, moko succession. So for us, it's our footsteps that we've left and imprinted up until this time we get to speak. So I'm not going to speak much longer, except just that I'd introduce ourselves, at least myself. My name is Ngata Ngata Wihi Horua. I come from Rangatukia, a place way up on the East Cape. And they call it, if you're Ngati probe, Tuturu. And nera, they call it the back of the waka, Nukutere. Other whakapapa is over at Raukokore at Waiho Bay, where all my nephews, like, sorry to drop his name, Taka Waitangi, and his father is called Tiger, and just lives up on the hill where I live. That's just a bit about me on my whakapapa. My mum's from Te Whatui Apiti, where Jean spoke this morning, so I felt inclined to pine te kura. Ne? And so, reira koutou mā, tēnei mihi atu ki a koutou, tino aloha ki a koutou, i te rongo, ki ngā kupu o tātou taku nei hoa tata, ki a koutou nā whina, nā tautoko manaaki ki a mātou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou.
Tū maira, oro maira, mānuka, taka I o matanaro, I o matua, I o nui, I o ro, I o taki. I te matatanga te kupu ko te atu kupu, I te matatanga. Yeah, I'm from a long line of descendants. My tipuna from Ngati Pro, Henare Pōtai, my tipuna. I'm from Te Whānau Urua Taupare, is my hapu. On my tūwhare tō side, Te Tauri Wirimu, he was a noaia, he was my tipuna. Kahanunu. I'm from Whatahora Jury, who was a policy designer. We started the Kotahitanga movement, and he was an author. And today I take my place, and I stand in that whakapapa. I was talking to my mate before. Actually, when I came up here yesterday, I was looking around thinking, does this look like where I'm going to be standing in a stand or in a dock? And I got a little bit hoarse after thinking about it, really, because I thought, being Waitangi, being Māori, I would have thought it should have been in the marae. That's just been me. I decided 2025 to be bold and fearless for our community. Bold and fearless. I'm here today. I've got a whakapapa of being in care. When we talk about te kore, that was the darkest place of my time. The darkest place around abuse. All that stuff is already in evidence, but that's not what I'm here today for. I'm not a 9-year-old boy that was put into solitary confinement for 3 weeks at a time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's torture. It's not even recognised for us being state care survivors. First of all, I give homage to that fella upstairs, your matua, for his love and attention and for his patience that everything was written today. It was written why I'm here. It was written why he's allowed me to live this long. I want to pay homage to my brothers and sisters, the soldiers that have died, that have passed, the many soldiers, our waene, our tamatoa, our tamariki, our moho, that have passed. They're not even acknowledged. There's been no space for them. I want to acknowledge my partner, who's really the hero in my story. Really the hero. Been through all the pain, all the madness, all the trauma. But I'm not here today to go on about the pain and the trauma. I'm in here to educate and to break down barriers for our community. To break down the barriers. I read a book, hopefully to compact my life story in an hour. If it was me, I'll be thinking it's a 2-week wānanga. Because I wanted to break it down without no mucking around and pulling punches. I speak on behalf. You'll notice I've got a jersey on at the moment. I'm going to leave the te kore here. There's a lot of te kore going on at the moment, and we will cover that before we can get into any light. Before we can get into any te ao marama, we'll cover it. I speak on behalf of the groups that we founded, me and my partner, Te O Kairangi Māori Rugby League. We've been doing it now for 34 years. We've had 178 New Zealand reps. The current Kiwis that are playing for us at the moment, our the Kiwi captain, Jerome Hughes, is one of our kids, came out of the mongrel mob whānau. Joseph Tarpany, who's the captain, came out of the Black Power family. We've been doing it for that long. We've got 38 voluntary staff that walk the kupu of our people. Tautoko, Awhi, Aroha, Manaakitanga. All the kupu that we use quite lightly, and yet it seems like we need to be, seems like resources determine our effort. And I've got to be very clear around that. I did say to my mate before I came here, I didn't want to get up there and talk about my kuma, that it's sweet. But he goes, mate, you got to give the whakapapa of what this is today and why we're building into what we're doing. We started off with one team for the first 20 years. We've built into, this year, 18 teams that'll go away to the Māori Nationals. From under 10s right through to under 19s. We work with the Morehu kids. We've been doing it that long. We've been fighting, not just government, even our own people, around koha, around resources, around equity. Fighting with it. The greed out there is pretty bad, really. That's part of the te kore. The judgments we've had to live with, the labels from my time while in care has been pretty terrible. Pretty terrible, even from our own. Look, I'm 1 in 20 brothers and sisters. I'm the third to youngest. Not one here is today. Mind you, I've had 9 that have passed. But over the 34 years that we've done our mahi, I can count them on one hand. I can count rangatira in queer, in the wharanuis, in te whare whakaahuru, in the jails, in the boys' homes, on one hand. Bold and fearless for my community, for the Ngati Morehu, which I'm kahanunu, Ngati Pro, Tu Whare Tō, Te Atahu Nui Paparami, but I'm also the duly elected of the Ngati Morehu. I'm their chair. So I've got to be bold and fearless now, because it's our time. I want to say this. I had a dream. I had a dream that all man and all woman and all our tamariki would be equal. And then I woke up in Ipuni Boys Home. Part of their whakapapa came through. I got a phone call from an old kroa. One day he rang me. His name was Hone Wharahinga. Goes, Carl, I need to talk to you. Come over to Ngāhau Whāmarae in Waniamata, because that's where I was born. Our family came from the East Coast. They migrated down here in hopes of, gold at the end of the rainbow. And all we got was a lot of promises, actually a lot of bullshit, to be honest. I'm not going to pull punches, it's a survivor's language. But he said, come over to the wharenui. It was a Sunday. I was stoned. I wasn't worried about being Māori. I was worried about being a gangster. And I wasn't even patched. I've never been patched. But I've lived that whole life. Just like Dennis talked about. That's been our life. I got over to the wharenui. It was 1992. When I got there, I recognised 2 cars. One was Hone's, the other car was my brother's. Atua Kori was, he's passed, my tuakana. And then this old queer that has always been in my life since I was a kid. Her name was Olivia Brabble. Worked within the justice system. She was my queer. She wanted, if she had her way, she would have adopted me to be her son. But she never got away because I ended up in care. But she always supported me. She was the one that sent out that karanga. When I walked into the marae, I couldn't even understand Māori. when he got up and he spoke in Māori, and as soon as he sat down, I felt the presence of everybody around me. And so it was passed. Tihei Mauri Tu, the awakening of new beginnings. Over the next 4 months, I thought, wow, I'm going to try and change the world. I'm going to share it at my marae. So I volunteered my time at the marae. My own whānau got together and voted me out as a voluntary worker on our own marae. So I walked away. Then we started up Te Waitangi Māori Rugby League. I was always told it could have been a Kiwi, but I could have been went nowhere because of all the anger. When I came out, it was just uncontrollable. Started up Te Waitangi Māori Rugby League. And we kept chipping away. I refused to believe that we could not achieve at the highest level because someone else was saying, you need a PhD or you need a qualification. We've coached at the highest level, managed, organised, administrated, the whole lot. That's the reason why our numbers done it. We weren't reliant on resources. Most importantly, we weren't relying on whānau. We weren't relying on Māori because I found that the greed was rife throughout everywhere. Rife. And really, it peed me off. Many times I would go home, hey mum, and we'd have a tangi about it. You know, we see leaders, iwi leader forums, we see kahu march would get up and talk on our behalf. But I didn't know them. I went, hey. Anyway, yeah, I can go on a lot more about our Māori Rugby League. I'll take the top off.
Any sponsors?
I'm just talking around undressing first before I can redress. So, the top I got on. I founded the New Zealand Collective of Abuse and State Care Charitable Trust. We actually are the biggest survival organisation here in New Zealand at the moment. Done from just aroha, koha, manaki, and just get the job done. We've got hubs all around the country. Again, we'll just get the job done. We're based on breaking down, reclaiming our tino rangatiratanga and our mana motahake as Ngati Morehu. Reclaiming it. Who would ever think that we have a language and a culture? Who? Well, it's time it got exposed, and it's that time to put it out there. For instance, service around language, I go to a garage to get a service. Program, service becomes your obligation. Now that we're talking, and I'm in this room, it's your obligation to correct and get things done. Programs become reclaim and restore. Those words can go to history. The final report, when it was tabled in government, I finally saw the status quo for what they were. Relationships, gone. Kupu, gone. I've been hearing it all the time. I've been sitting in here in the Royal Commission. Service, program, gone. That's not our language. It's time to break it down and get it right. There's two communities out there. By Māori, for Māori. Which Māori are we talking about? Our community's been at the table. Unfortunately, we've been picking up butts on the side of the road while the rest have been eating crayfish. I've got to be clear. No more mucking around. There's two communities, in all communities. The well-resourced, the well-knowledgeable, the ones that know how to dot the T's, but they're not passing it on to the rest of their brothers and sisters and the rest of the kids, because it's our kids that have been missing out. Redress. Redress? First of all, they undressed us. Then they want to redress us. Look, we've been redressing ourselves. I've been redressing myself all my life. I don't need it designed. I already know what it looks like. Nobody needs to tell us. It's time to reverse the cycle. It's time to get it right and start the whakarongo. My redress has been working with tamariki, the continuous reminder of what we deliver in the wharanui. The continuous reminder of seeing a kid smile, grabbing a kid out of a gang family that come into our wharanui. And like Nate always says to me, all of a sudden, while they're 14, out on the streets they have to act like they're 34. They come into our environment and they become a 14-year-old kid because we get them into a safe space. I should be following the script, but I'm just talking. I'd rather talk out from my heart and just use little bullet points and just go from there. Between myself, me and Nate, we've been delivering in hundreds of marae all across the Motu. Hundreds. Delivered to many, many whānau. The problem is, the ones that really need to hear are the ones that are very greedy. That are holding on to the resources that ain't theirs. The whakapapa of Ngā Morehu. May I start to read? Sometimes I wish I never had glasses because I don't want to see the real stuff. Okay. Ngā Morehu are the survivors of abuse in state and faith-based care. Many of us were taken as tamariki, stripped from our whānau, whenua, reo and whakapapa. Others were born into the system already fractured by colonisation and institutional harm. I refer to a good friend of mine who talks, his name was Dr. Rawiri Karana. He was the first lifer to get his life lifted because he became a doctor and he teaches at Waikato University. And he talks about the wave effect. The first wave that came here was colonisation. The second wave is the outlawing of our tournament, the Tournament Suppression Act, replaced by the churches. The next wave was the native schools, where our people were caned for speaking to their Māori. The next wave was our tipuna saw with the opportunity of maybe we'll be treated as equals if we send our people out to the war. So they went and fought for our country. And many of our people died. When they came back, like my grandfather, his name was Hori Whakataka. He came back and they had taken his land while he was over there fighting for this country. The next wave was our aunties became the first kids in state care. And the next wave was us. It's just a little bit of history if anyone wants to delve into that. Our whakapapa is not just of bloodlines, but it's of lived experience. The whakapapa of trauma, carved by the scars of silence, pain, and systemic neglect. The whakapapa of survival carried in the heartbeat of every Ngā Morehu who continues to stand. The whakapapa of truth-telling, spoken in the testimonies, the tears, and the unyielding courage. The whakapapa of resistance, found in the refusal to be erased, forgotten, or ignored. Ngati Morehu was shaped by the institutions, but we're not defined by them. We define ourselves through our stories, through our language, our healing, and our collective strength. Ngā Morehu is a living culture, a living reo, born from injustice and reclaimed through unity, aroha, and truth. Ngā Morehu carry a culture born of survival, a living, breathing language shaped through resistance, resilience, and reclaiming identity. These values reflect our lived truths and guide our collective journey. This is the first draft of our language that we're putting out, and our collective will start to put it all together and throw it out there, so we can start challenging the resistance of equity and resources. Start challenging it. NZ Cast is survivor-led, survivor-designed, survivor-informed, and we're a collective collaboration, and we're not just Māori. I'm also Scottish on the McGregor and jury line.
Steaming
The lines are getting blurred.
Lines are getting blurred, mate. Aroa tutu, fierce love. A love that protects, not pacifies. It is loyal, forged in hardship, unwavering. Aroa tuturu defends the vulnerable and stands up against injustice. Mana motahake, self-determination. Our voices, our authority. We define ourselves. No one speaks for us but us. We uphold our sovereignty as survivors in tangata whenua. What I'm finding is that there's a lot out there that are speaking on our behalf, and they're preparing themselves to grab our resources from our kids' mouths. We will challenge that at all levels, because it's our children that will be missing out. You only got to pick up the paper, go into the news, and you'll see them there. It's time we stopped it and knocked it on the head. Humility and uplifting others. We know what it is to be brought low, so we lift others. We walk with humility, never forgetting those still struggling. We empower them through compassion. Truth and justice. We seek truth even when it's painful. We pursue justice even if it means breaking the silence and burning bridges. Our truth is our legacy. Wairu o ora, spirit, living spirit. Our wairu kept us alive when the system tried to break us. It may not be religious, but it is sacred. Our spirituality grounds us, guides us, and connects us to each other and our tipuna. Language. We ngā Morehu speak in codes and metaphors, in several phrases. Our reo forged not only in the classrooms, but in the state institutions, the prisons, the wards, the homes, on the streets, safe houses. Our language is born from pain, resistance, and the need to survive systems that tried to silence us. It holds our truths, our whakapapa, our grief, and our mana. Our reo, our metaphors, our stories, they are the foundation of our identity, and they must be recognised and respected and upheld in all spaces of redress, healing, and transformation. Over the last 3 months, I've been challenging all the agencies around the barriers for our community. Let's just talk wins at the moment, and I'll just give you an example. Case managers don't know what the regional manager's doing. Regional doesn't know what the national's doing, and it doesn't filter down to our community. All it filters down to is you get about 10 different case managers over the next 10 years, and you've got to repeat your mumai because that one doesn't even know what the hell's going on, or doesn't even know what. So that's one of the things that we've been doing over the last few months, breaking down the barriers. The barriers. ACC, if you're a survivor in here, you know the barriers. I'm not interested in a counsellor. I'm interested in a taonga. I'm not interested in some of the stuff that they offer. They're just not listening to us. It's time that they started to listen too, and we started to break them back too. Just so you know, I've gotten just about all the CEOs into the same room from all the agencies, and I'm challenging a whole lot of them. I'm knocking down those barriers for our community. Tikanga o te reo nā Morehu. Our language is sacred. It must not be judged by academic rules or grammar. It carries lived truth. Wairu are driven. Much of our language is spiritual, even if it's not religious. Context matters. Our phrases can carry multiple layers depending on who says it and where. Many survivors blend Māori, English, slang, and institutional lingo. This hybrid reo is valid and valuable. Our voice, our mana, our survivors can give true meaning to these expressions. They cannot be co-opted, misused, or sanitised. For instance, all good, bro? It's a quiet check-in. It means, are you safe? Are you stable? A coded way of showing care. Many of us are out the gate. Wild, blunt, raw honesty, often used as a shield against being silenced or dismissed. I don't trust easy. Many of us don't. A declaration of experience, not attitude. It means I've been betrayed before, and we're still getting betrayed. I worked as an advisor, or I wouldn't say worked as an advisor at the Royal Commission. I went there with a manuka stick to use what my mum used to use, a manuka stick to get the one, if I had to, whack the legs of the ones that were getting it wrong. And all I experienced in there was the wrongs, really. I hated it. I work alongside some great people. Anik Sykes was here today. He's here today supporting me. Some great people. Raori Tānui, Dr. Raori Karana, Paora Moyo, Denise Maseta. I worked with them there. I walked away disturbed. I knew where we are today was going to happen, because it wasn't survival-led. What really peeves me off too is that they geared up around the misuse of our resources, and other groups are already putting their hands in there and taking hold of it. We've got to start challenging that. We come hard, as you know, you can see it from me. When we speak, we bring fire, because we were silent for far too long. Staunched up, guarded, protective, a survival posture, learned young in unsafe environments. Keep your back to the wall. A strategy, a life lesson, a way of staying alert and alive. My tone, often blunt, emotionally intelligent, darkly humorous, always layered with lived truth. Tikanga o ngā Morehu, the cultural practices. Even outside the traditional marae, we ngā Morehu hold our own tikanga, unwritten until now. Always face the room, learn from institutional survival. Karanga of the unspoken, shared pain without needing words. Music, love the music, art, tattoos. Not just an expression, but a release. A silent nod, acknowledgement between those who carry the same pain. The no narking culture. We didn't narc on our perpetrators because we were taught, if you narc, you got a hidey. We don't narc on uncle who's sitting on the pie because he's a perpetrator. We haven't narked over the years, but we're sure as hell going to come now and start pulling them up. Actually, I heard a lot of quotes around wānanga. We've even decided to change that up. It's wharetapu. We delivered wharetapu, the sacred haven for our community. Through our lived experience, not textbooks, but testimony. Tapu and Wairu, ngā Morehu carry deep tapu. We are the holders of buried history. Our bodies carry marks, both seen and unseen. Our stories contain generational weight and healing power. Approach with manaakitanga, not curiosity. These are not just case studies. These are tangata ora. We are living people. A declaration of our culture. We Ngā Morehu, we are a culture, not just a consequence. We have our own language, our own code, our own mana. We survive systems built to erase us. Now we speak, now we write, now we stand. That's the first part of my delivery. The next part was around knocking down all the barriers for our community and exposing the injustices. Not just in amongst government departments, agencies, even amongst our own people, Māoridom. Breaking that down too. Us Ngā Morehu are experts and we need to be brought to the table, on all tables. Not just seen as, come and tell your story, we'll take it from here. No. Go on, I'm really frustrated that they look at us, that we're so traumatized that we cannot lead at the highest level. That we cannot be the designer of policies, that we cannot organise, manage, administrate. I'm hoha with it. Barriers, talking about the barriers game, breaking the barriers down. The barriers of, if you're grassroots and you need a tautoho, you can't even ask mana whenua here. You can't. We've been doing it for 34 years here, working with kids. We're still struggling. We're still having to ask pohara whānau to come forward and support those kids. Pohara whānau. Or mana whenua down the back, plenty of dollars, having a bloody ripper. And I'm talking about here, right here, Wellington. Because this is where we've been working for that long. And they're the ones to release the resources for Māoridom here. Cut it out. We just want what our kids need. Our kids need it, we shouldn't be asking you. Just hand over what's not yours. These are actions for Crown and Iwi. Resource Ngā Morehu independent organisations. Resource them. Give back what is theirs, rightfully theirs. They shouldn't have to put an application in or apply. You've been using it for far too long. Since the report got tabled, no one's forfeited us home to say sorry. Uncle, I understand now. Auntie, I know what you've been through with Uncle. No one. Where's the forfeities at the marae now since the report came out? I've got about 800 whānau here. No one's here. But that's rife throughout the whole of the Ngā Morehu, to be honest. It's rife. Hence the reason why we're taking our iwi to the table. Allow Ngā Morehu to deliver their models of practice. I deliver a model of practice, Te Rako Tōra, the Tree of Life. It came from Tihei Mauri too. The Tree of Life is what I'm doing right now, is I'm planting it. I'm reaching out, no mai, hara mai, piki mai, kake mai. Reaching out. That's how we're growing. It's become an aftercare. You don't have to be in prison to be released. As soon as I finish this kōrero, I'll release you. To where? What is your aftercare? This could only come from lived experience. I've done all the programs, cryogenics, you name it. All the programs, me and my brother, done it all. But there was no aftercare. As soon as they gave us a service, it was like your petrol. You filled up, you left, that's it. They called them wraparounds. Wraparound who? They never check up. They never really go in there sincerely and say, "Kia ora, uncle, you all right? We understand where you're coming from now." Ka pai? Doesn't happen. Tēnō rangatiratanga and mana mo te hake. It's our time. It's our time to take charge and to say, "Kia ora, my uncle, can you step aside for a minute? We're coming through now, we just want there just be tika here, uncle." And just say, can we get what's rightfully ours? Without begging. Urgent needs to Crown and iwi. Justice. Justice. I don't want recommendations, I want actions. I'm not interested in recommendations. We've been getting it since the forming of the Listening Advice Bureau, since the Royal Commission, you name it. Our brothers and sisters are going to come up and repeat their mamoi. Really? The apology we got was rubbish. Rubbish. There should have been actions. I'm not interested in an apology. I'm interested in action. What are you going to do right now? Ngā Morehu need resources and equity so we can heal our community. Housing, accountability. You know, I was watching the hikoi coming down, tū toi te triti, and the quote of Kotaitanga. I rang a good friend of mine who was sitting in amongst them at the marae up in Ngati. I lived on the streets of it. I said to my brother, I'm sitting here with another one of our brothers, look around. He goes, "Hey?" And he was about to deliver on the pipeway. I said, "Look around, my brother. None of us are there. So how can it be Kotaitanga?" And my great-grandfather, Whatuhora Jury, was instrumental in starting the Kotaitanga movement. Redress recommendations. Even that's not a survivor's language. I don't want to be redressed. It's almost embarrassing that I was undressed. Now you want to redress me. Ngā Morehu were forced to redress ourselves for too long. And we're hoping that someone else will give us permission or allow us to redress our children. Ngā Morehu understand our needs better than anyone. A comprehensive redress system must be Ngā Morehu centric, equitable and holistic. Geez, it almost seems like bloody government language, and I hate it. I hate the status quo of government language. It's rubbish. It's a time for change. The government must move beyond one-off payments and implement a meaningful, lifelong support structure, akin to the system in place for veterans in New Zealand. The recommendations outlined in this report provide a roadmap for a fair, just and effective redress system. God, it sounds like I'm going into the warehouse to buy a pair of a dress. That acknowledges the state and Māori role in the past harm, actively works to repair it. Key recommendations for our Ngā Morehu at this stage. I'll put it out on a press release. 1. Introduce a payment card for wellbeing for aftercare. 2. Provide lifelong free counselling, even if it means a tohunga, regardless of the abuse. Increase financial compensation. Provide free financial legal advice. 4. Improve access to files, ensuring chronological order and literacy support. Now, the reason why I wanted to say that is because when I got back my my claim, a lot of it was blacked out, and it was catered for the perpetrators.
Yeah.
While they used the T-toy language that we don't want it to affect others. There was perpetrators in amongst that language, and I was hoa with it. Fun, cultural connections, and initiative for Māori and Pacific survivors. Me and my friend, we deliver Māori kaupapa in a whare topu. I referred to one not too long ago, actually, one of the ones that we run up in Auckland. When I walked into the room, there was probably around about 60 women, and there was only about 4 men. And I've been so used to delivering to man that it gave me a bit of a wake up, a bit of a shock. I went and asked my wahine, could you deliver? Now, whom else better to deliver to women than the ones that actually lived it? Just like Liz Macaulay. When Liz was talking, it reminded me of my wahine, who is of the same walk. And it was great that they were able to get together and give each other a hongi out there. Not too long as that happened. When we first started the NZ cast, what I wanted to do was get all our community into the one room. We've never had a national hui, just with survivors, no one else. And just to sit down and start nutting out all the logistics and have that hard corridor around what does equity look like? What does resources look like? What does our language look like? What does our culture look like? These things are very valid. And it's been far too long that they haven't been put into place.
Carl, tēnā nōpea.
Kapai.
There's about 15 minutes left,
Yep.
and the things in particular that we'd like to hear is around the criminal justice system.
Kapai.
So if there are things that you can talk, given that we have to make sure that there's enough time for the
Yeah.
other speakers to follow.
Okay. So around the criminal justice thing, so a lot of my, I didn't go down that track this morning because it's in my evidence that was tabled, that was sent to you guys.
Okay, do you want
You
to
know-
talk to any of it?
Well, when we talk around the criminal justice things, everything that I heard in the room is quite real.
Okay.
You know, the police, it's true. They've been pretty bad to our whānau. They have. I continuously get it even right now. And I've been out of jail for quite some time. You know, we still get that judgments around our kids. It's the same old stuff.
Yeah. Wrongfully imprisoned.
Right? Yeah, I was wrongfully imprisoned a couple of times actually. I gave some money to a person that was running
Funeral service.
a funeral service because he looked straight and he was wearing a suit and tie. When we went over to ask him where the money was after about 4 months, his wife said that I went over there and threatened him, and then I was violently arrested outside home.
2 o'clock in the morning.
So that's just a small example. In the criminal justice system, all my evidence is in there. I don't want to go down that track. I did say to Harry this morning, what I delivered today is around what I wanted to deliver. A message to the tribunal, a message to my brothers and sisters around this is what's needed right now. Look, the report is already delivered around the criminal justice harm. I've got to say that. But if there's any other particular questions you want me to answer, yeah, let me know. But I was just about finished anyway.
Now?
Okay, Te Pai, I think in terms of talking about ngā Morehu, there isn't so much of a focus of this particular inquiry, although it definitely criminal justice system has impacted upon many Morehu.
Yeah.
If you're happy that that what you've provided as a brief will sit on the record, and
Yeah, I'm very happy with
you'd
it.
like to talk about.
No,
other things
I'm
or-
very happy with what's on record, really. I wanted to come in here and deliver a higher level for my brothers and sisters of survivors. You know, while it, and it's very important, really. And I've got to say, I asked if it was public because I wanted to get it out to my community. I asked Harry to our lawyer, and I want to give big ups to Tamata Law to do that because I'm going to put it out on our page. And
tēnā koe te matua hoi anō kia kōruatahi, kia koutou, me tō koutou whānau tautoko. Matua, thank you for this call. I can tell you I have read every page of the 17 kgs of the report,
Ka pai,
beginning to end.
ka pai.
So I'm, your words are certainly not lost on me this morning, and thank you for
Yeah.
the
Can I
way
say-
that you're,
Can I say something today?
yes sir.
It's a watered down version, the report. Perpetrators were never ever named, they should have been. I'm saying that quite clearly. And the watered down version, they don't talk about that there was priests that came into the marae, into Ipuni Boiso, and they picked who they wanted on a Sunday. They were taken around to the churches. So none of that stuff is really put out there. The language of our people and our culture needs to be put out there because it's been hidden.
I've read those reports
Yeah,
honestly
can't wait.
and seen the names, and
Can't
I
wait.
have, so I'm just saying that because I can absolutely understand the wairua that you're bringing today, but also talking about what you want now,
Yeah.
and what you're wanting for the future,
Ka pai,
and the changes that you're wanting to make
ka
now.
pai.
Kua roko, I've definitely been heard, sir.
Thank you.
I've got a question around your access to files, because I know that you've heard some of the kōrero even today, even for around inmates who have finished their time, they've gone out to the community and can't even get health records,
That's right.
let alone the story, their continuous story.
Yeah.
The story of their, not just health, but what's happened to them, what their history basically, that's owned by them.
Ka pai.
You were saying that when you got your own records,
Yeah.
that this was significantly blacked out, redacted, that they took that quarter out. Were you ever given an explanation other than they didn't
Yeah.
want to give the names of the
Yeah,
people?
that's what the explanation was to me, yeah.
And were any of them to do with times that there have been those interactions with the justice system, like
Yeah.
with the police or
Yeah, there was.
corrections or?
Yeah, there was times where the police violently arrested me when I was only a young kid too, and that was taken out.
How old were you, Matua?
I would have been 13 at the time. Yeah, 13 at the time.
And so even in those records,
Yeah.
it's all blacked out, or did you even get access to it?
No, even when I was 17, I was doing a burglary one time, and I was with a couple of my mates, and the police came to the front door. So what I did is I tried to just run. What they did is they chased me. When I got over the fence, one of the police hit me in the back of the head with a shovel, which put about 34 stitches in the back of my head. I went to jail at the time. I was 18. I went to jail at the time for aggravated assault.
You got done for the aggravated assault for putting the shovel in the back of your head.
No, because I ran through the police at the front door. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they gave me 5.5 years. I was only 18 at the time. Yeah.
And in terms of, so when you got your records,
Yeah.
and because you said that it was, you want access to your files, you know, the true story
The
of
lot.
what's happened.
Yeah,
Yep, the
the
lot.
lot, yeah.
Even with, through the process of the Royal Commission and all of that, you haven't been able to get, even with the OIAs that were done on trying to get information, nothing still comes
No,
through?
that's not necessarily true. I've got to be honest, and I'll be honest here. I've been too busy trying to save the world
Some
that I've even forgotten about doing my own claims and looking after me and my family. Too busy trying to save the world.
That's okay, I want to do it.
Matua, the reason I'm asking this is because I love, you mentioned something about a well-being aftercare card. Well, obviously our aspirations will be the fact that no one needs to be in the care or go through the institutions in the first place, but the side, can you just explain a little bit more what you're talking about? Are you saying
Yeah,
so
no.
people who are coming out of whether it's the care or the prisons, that they are guaranteed access to those support? Can you just give me, I've never heard it before, this
Yeah.
wellbeing card.
No, I'm glad. So aftercare. What does aftercare look like when you're coming out of, whether you get released from a service or a program or jail? What does it look like? Well, we deliver aftercare. In Cast, we have a whare tapu, we get them into a safe space where they're able to share and care. Finally, after many, many years, we get something like one we had over 100 people. And they're all sitting in the same room, and a lot of them always thought they were on their own. Always thought that they had to live life by themselves. So the connection that we get in there and we deliver, that's what I love about Natana. He delivers around the true meaning of the marae, because we hold it in a marae. We have quite a few of our community that are Pacific Islanders and Pākehs, and they get a little bit intimidated by what the actual marae actually means until my brother breaks it down. He breaks it down for us. For us, it means a violent prevention program, really, around wahine. About our respect for wahine and what it truly means. Some don't even know. You know, why do you take your shoes off? Why is the marae the same colour? Why is it built the same? What are these carvings up top? What do they mean? What's the meaning of marae? And my mate always breaks it down. He always explains it to us. Marae meaning pure, rai meaning knowledge. But he breaks it all down. So we get them comfortable. They're able to just share and care in the 4 to 5 days that we have with them. And then their aftercare. We don't just release them. We give them the tree of life where it becomes their mana motahake and their tino rangatiratanga. They take it home. They start to grow it. They're in charge of its growth.
We implement it into our whānau with our own kids, our tamariki, our rangatahi.
Yeah, indeed. Jazz come up, my niece come up from Otautai. She's just joined NZ Cast. But yeah, so I could probably go into it more, but we always say that you got to hear it, you got to see it, and it's better off to feel it, really.
When in your journey, Matua, did you first have access to that Te Ao Māori? You talked about the Tirohanga unit.
I love it. I love it.
But I'm just trying to, and when you spoke before, Matua, you talked about how transformational that was, a point of change for you. In terms of your own journey, at which point did that happen, and who were the ones that supported that to happen? Like, I guess I'm saying, were there any allies? Were there any good interventions that happened, whether it was for inside, in care, or was it from external that helped?
Yeah, I'll answer it like this actually. Me and Nate heard Hirawini Jones 5 years before I did. I heard him down in Te Whare Whakaahuru in
Hirawini Jones.
Hirawini Jones. I heard him down in Rimataka in Te Whare Whakaahuru. His explanation around whare tangata, mana wahine, like Nate, it blew me away. It changed my whole life. That's the first time I ever heard and started to hunger for my people's kai. The first time. And then, unfortunately though, you get released.
There's nothing.
No one followed up. No one came to our assistance. So hence the reason why we started Māori Elite. We started working with our tamari.
Can I just add to as part of the ngā Morehu really, and coming back to your question around the aftercare card, specifically as well, it relates to accessibility for mokopuna who are part of the whānau, who can't get into education schools. They're zoned out of their particular areas. There's no access for housing. The consideration of this government, I'm not sure how effective that is under the Luxonology, but I think the issue around accessibility to better housing so that tamariki can get to school. There's always the after shadow about, oh, you fellas are that lot there. You're the gang, or you're the rough area, and you're the da 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 da. So as a pathway for change would be, if there was a card, something similar to the gold card, for example, they get a free ride on the bus and all those other things. But for us, for the movement really is about how can we better ensure that mokopuna can be the beneficiaries of their hardship, unfortunately. And so it would give them accessibility to economic
And I think
access.
also too that in answering your question about what we do as in our delivery, while Carl and I have acknowledged that, you know, most of the stuff today are dealing with people who are older, who are halfway through their life. In our program, or at least in our kaupapa, it's right at the beginning of life. Near the whare tangata, what does that mean? Why do you take your shoes off? Why is it that you take those shoes off? You know, is it because everyone else takes it off? There's a kaupapa there. To help remind you and me that you and I were nurtured in that house for the first 9 months of our life. So if we get that right, then all things shall come about. We're not halfway in our lifetime starting to deal with haki-hakis. You know what I mean? That have been born over many, many years. And all those haki-hakis tell the same story. But they don't tell the story at the beginning of life. How to be, you know, we're teaching our children. When you see their whare tipuna, you see their whare kai, that's man and wife forever. You know, they're tohus to help remind us that we're living in a world, that we've forgotten these treasures, which are more relevant in the world we live today rather than yesterday. Why do they still standing here today? All these big flash buildings will fall over. That marae will still be standing. Why? Because it's tika, because it's true. When we talk, just briefly, when we talk about tikana, it's the law of the atua, L-O-R-E. It's a universal truth. Yeah? So your tikana can't be any different to mine as it is to in the north. If you look at the kupu, it's true. Kawa is man's law, L-A-W. But our people tell us to keep a balance between the two. Yeah, well, we've forgotten that.
Yeah, that's right.
And so what we try to do is share it with those we have in Morehu. You know what I mean? Because that's a starting point. You know, it starts at the beginning of life, not halfway through the life.
That's right.
Where most of us, when we turn 50, we've wrecked ourselves by then, and the next 50 we try to repair ourselves. Yeah? Well, that's what I always say to my nieces when they turn 50. The first 50, we're beating ourselves up. The second 50, we're trying to repair it.
Yeah.
Kei te tika, and not the hair.
Some of it's unrepairable.
Just, I'll just, you can, but just explain to everyone that Carl and the whānau wanted to record this, so that's why it's been recorded at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's not a recording by anyone else other than the whānau associated with Carl. So, if whakamārama kaua tū. If there's any final words you'd like to share.
Yeah, I would actually. Actually, I've been writing to Parapara over the last 3 or 4 months because I thought it was very, very important to start putting it out there. And I had my mate, because I told him the one that I was going to put out there today, or Rawari, and he rang me up and he goes, no, you need to change that. So I put out a short one. Te mana ko o tātou pono. The power is in our truths. Final call to action. Preachers, I've been here to the commission. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. I know it wasn't what you had hoped, but it was about what I needed to do. Yeah. Thank you. I will this commission to be bold and fearless when addressing the crown. When addressing iwi, please be bold and fearless. Allow our Ngā Morehu to finally take our place. Tēnā koutou.
Tēnā koutou o Ngati Morehu I roto I te whare nei. Nā, ko te mutu manako kia piki te kaha, kia piki te māramatanga I roto I a koutou katoa. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, nā tātou katoa.